think you should pay everybody. Is it a reason why you guys are not paying whatever that vendor is?
What was it for?
It was for shirts. That's what it's.
With its embattled mayor, Tiffany Henyard, at the center of the storm, the small Illinois village of Dolton has become the scene of a political drama so extraordinary that it feels like it was lifted straight out of a scandal novel. Previously hailed as a trailblazer for becoming Dolton's first female mayor, Henyard's historic tenure is now overshadowed by mounting allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and abuse of power that have thrown her administration into chaos. Alleges that in order to increase her power, she chose unfit allies to important posts and embezzled state monies for extravagant personal needs. Her detractors claim that her leadership is more about safeguarding her own interests than it is about serving the community. Claims that have caused division and disillusionment among the residents of Dolton. As if the accusations weren't already enough, the most recent development has added an unprecedented level of drama to her deteriorating political career. Her lover testified against her, and his testimony has reportedly strengthened the case against Henyard, giving credibility to allegations of misconduct and leaving her supporters frantically seeking explanations. Meanwhile, residents have taken to public forums to express their outrage, expressing feelings of betrayal not only by their mayor, but by the entire system that allowed her to rise to power. This revelation has sent shockwaves through the community, amplifying the narrative of betrayal and political intrigue. Henyard, on the other hand, has dismissed the allegations as unfounded assaults planned by political. Even her most ardent supporters are finding it harder and harder to defend her actions as the details of her alleged transgressions continue to surface. Her opponents, who are desperate to see her fall from grace, insist that the charges are part of a deliberate smear campaign meant to undermine her leadership and silence her vision for progress in Dolton. Her boyfriend's shocking statement at its center, coupled with the courtroom drama, has produced a spectacle that perfectly encapsulates Dolton's. The once promising leader is now at a critical juncture, with her political future hanging by a thread as the scandals and accusations pile up. The question on everyone's lips is not whether Tiffany Henyard will survive this storm, but whether Dolton can survive her leadership long enough to rebuild the trust that has been so severely eroded. The political turmoil is a mix of personal betrayal, power struggles, and public disillusionment that seems almost unreal.
Investigator, I've got some books that says Supermayor. Inside I have from the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois.
Consider yourself in her position. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's downfall has been nothing short of dramatic, filled with accusations that go right to the core of her leadership. These are not minor claims either. They are serious allegations involving illegal appointments to key positions of power, influence, and decision-making within the village of Dolton that, according to critics and legal experts, were filled without the proper approvals required by local governance rules. Henyard's contract, Henyard allegedly circumvented the legal process entirely instead of obtaining approval from the Board of Trustees, which is a necessary step. Ryle's actions reportedly started with her attempts to appoint a village attorney, police chief, and village administrator, all crucial positions that directly affect how a town is run. It didn't take long for these actions to catch up with her, as a judge blocked the appointments, citing that they did not meet the legal standards. However, rather than readjusting her strategy or addressing the underlying issues, Henyard appeared to double down. She surrounded herself with people who were thought to be unfit or without the right authority to hold these positions, putting herself in open defiance of both judicial orders and governance norms. This defiance didn't just seem subtle or passive. It carried an air of brazenness that left many in disbelief. Henyard created the conditions for an extraordinary impasse between the judicial system, her administration, and the trustees. Critics contend that these appointments were intended to consolidate power by establishing obedient officials rather than with the best interest of the village in mind. The judge's order prohibiting these appointments may have been a setback, but instead of slowing her down, Henyard seemed to take it as a challenge, as if daring the legal system to catch up to her maneuvering. For the residents of Dolton, This unfolding drama has been both captivating and alarming on one hand, as they have watched their mayor transform from a history-making leader, Dolton's first female mayor, into a figure whose actions frequently blur the line between rights and justice, ambition and carelessness. But they also witnessed the very foundation of their town's administration being shaken due to recurrent disputes, court cases, and accusations of improper behavior that many residents have experienced. Henyard has maintained that her decisions are based on a vision for progress, dismissing critics as politically motivated detractors intent on derailing her agenda. However, with every new move she makes, the scrutiny only grows from those who are shocked by how far this situation has gotten out of control and wonder how one leader could accumulate such unchecked power and wield it so unilaterally. For those who first backed her historic election, the disappointment is evident as they struggle with the growing realization that her leadership may be more about asserting dominance than navigating the community. Headlines highlighting her contentious appointments to publicize conflicts with the trustees show that Henyard's leadership style seems to thrive on confrontation, escalating tensions rather than encouraging collaboration. Henyard's defiance depicts a person who felt superior to others, standing her ground against those who doubted her behavior and her seeming disrespect for the rules of procedure. And judicial authority has turned into a lightning rod for detractors who view it as a sign of a leader who values personal control over accountability and transparency. Greater concerns over the long-term effects of her tenure are brought up by the controversy surrounding these nominations. What does Dolton's mayor's flagrant disregard for the law entail for the village? As Henyard continues to function with a defiant edge, the scenario serves as both a reminder of how a community can balance its desire for strong leadership with the mounting evidence that this leadership may come at the expense of its integrity. Whether the legal system catches up with her or she manages to weather the storm, the consequences of her actions will undoubtedly reverberate throughout Dolton's history for years to come. For now, residents are left to watch the spectacle, caught between disbelief and concern, as their once promising mayor pushes the boundaries of governance to their limits. This is a cautionary tale and a wake-up call for a village struggling to balance hope for change with the grim reality of political turmoil.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing.
In a stunning turn of events in the ongoing story of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, a witness who was previously thought to be a supporting character in the drama suddenly entered the courtroom and made accusations that could destroy her entire career and set the town of Dolton, Illinois, on fire with scandal. The testimony claimed that Henyard's leadership had been abusing municipal. If the testimony is correct, it shows a pattern of behavior where Henyard allegedly used her office to fund a lifestyle of privilege and excess, leaving her community struggling in the shadow of her mismanagement. The implications are staggering, as they depict the leader prioritizing her personal luxury over the welfare of the town she was elected to serve. These indulgences range from lavish vacations to extravagant purchases. The accusations go beyond financial misconduct and include claims of bribery and power abuse. It has been reported that Henyard has been engaging in covert, underhanded transactions with local businesses, allegedly accepting payments in exchange for preferential treatment. These allegations point to a leader who is willing to compromise integrity and justice for personal gain, using her position of authority to establish a system that serves her interests while undermining the principles of justice and trust necessary for a community to function. The testimony describes specific cases in which companies allegedly pay to get around rules, obtain permits more quickly, or receive other preferential treatment, effectively turning the principles of public service on their head. If verified, these acts painted Henyard as a mayor who was more concerned with protecting her pocketbook than governing transparently. This breach of public confidence, whether it is in terms of equity or responsibility, goes right to the heart of Dolton's governance, especially in it. Due to these accusations of misuse, the community, which already faces financial difficulties due to an average household income significantly below Henyard's own salary, is left wondering how much of their hard-earned taxes have been used for Henyard's personal pursuits rather than community programs or infrastructure education. The evidence illuminates a larger pattern of administration that is rife with possible wrongdoing and frequently appears to prioritize personal advantage. Preference over the general welfare. The shockwaves from the claims in court extended much beyond the room where the testimony was given. Many Dolton residents who had placed their faith in Henyard's leadership now confront the sobering possibility that the person they chose to guide them into a better future may have been putting her own interests first all along. The idea of a mayor abusing her power to favor certain people and encourage favor deals has not only destroyed community spirit, but it sparked concerns about what else might be going on beneath the surface. Could these alleged violations be the beginning? What about her personal and political ties that might have allowed her conduct to go unpunished? Thus far, Hen's reaction to these accusations has mostly relied on denial, citing accusations of political sabotage and a deliberate smear effort. Yet her relationships with powerful people and associates may have enabled or blindsided. The alleged wrongdoings are still being closely examined. The witness's statement, meanwhile, has strengthened the need for accountability, with locals calling for openness and justice. Critics are questioning the extent of these purported ties and whether Henyard's influence has weakened other facets of Dolton's administration.
So that's one of the reasons I won't know when we go through our board packets. It's like, some of this stuff, it's like you don't know exactly what it's for, and then when you ask the question, it's no.
You might be wondering how all of this transpired in court, but witnesses report that it wasn't exactly a calm day. The tension swiftly escalated to a completely explosive situation when Henyard's boyfriend started sharing all of these personal details. Henyard, who was reportedly shocked by his testimony, lost control and had a full-blown meltdown, yelling at him and interfering with the proceedings. Emotional reaction just made things worse, creating the impression that she was losing control of the issue as a whole, not just her temper. I don't think that's lawful because of the public's reaction to his employment. They weren't going to sit idly by and let all of this happen. That's just not how municipalities operate, and Dolton people were already fed up with the mayhem surrounding the Henyard administration. And their anger has only increased as a result of this recent affair. It's clear that the residents' patience is running low, and they want answers because this is a mayor who was supposed to be working for the community, and social media was flooded with comments calling for her resignation and accusing her of betraying their trust. One commenter didn't hold back, saying that she is as corrupt as they come and that her crimes are clear and traceable. She should be put in jail. When we go through our board packets, it seems like you know some of these things, but you don't know exactly what they're for. When you ask a question, there's no answer, but wait, it gets even more dramatic. You would think that after all of this, Henyard would be keeping quiet, perhaps trying to salvage what little reputation they have. They also weren't spending their hard-earned money on personal luxuries, so that was one of the reasons they tried to take over the meeting. I don't vote. She still had, but instead she was late for a village board meeting at the local park district building because the village hall could not accommodate the crowd. She tried to lead the meeting by walking in as if nothing was wrong and trying to give a speech, but the locals weren't having it and booed her. Making sure the right thing is done is more important than creating headlines. Therefore, she left the meeting following the receipt of invoices, but those invoices pose further issues, and sometimes we don't get the answers to those questions in a complaint alleging that the law trustees violated the state's openness regulations and unlawfully held meetings. According to Farah, the whole thing is a sophisticated ploy to weaken her authority and ruin our re-election campaign. Bard has been trying to steer the conversation by asserting that political motivations underlie all of these accusations. She even shared an enigmatic Facebook post that said, "I need all my black sheep to stand with me. If God is for us, then who can be against us?" She seems to be trying to rally her supporters, but it's hard to tell how many people are still behind her given the current situation. For the past year, a federal investigation has been exposing the dubious spending of a South suburban politician. We only have half the tale, which is true. Federal officials have taken notice of the whole issue in the area known as Tiffany Henyard. Since several of her closest allies have been pulled into the inquiry, there are rumors that Tons' inner circle is starting to break down under the pressure of her being served.
Invoices, but those invoices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making sure the right.
You might be wondering how all of this transpired in court, but according to witnesses, it wasn't exactly a quiet day. As soon as Henyard's boyfriend started sharing all of these private details, the tension in the courtroom swiftly escalated to an absolutely explosive situation. Henyard, who was reportedly shocked by his testimony, lost full control of herself and threw a fit, screaming at him and interfering with the proceedings. Her emotional outburst only made things worse, giving the impression that she was losing control of not just her temper, but the situation as a whole. The actual response of the general population to his hiring Dolton locals were already fed up with the disarray surrounding the Henyard administration, and this latest scandal has only increased their ire. I don't think that's legal because the public wasn't going to sit quietly and allow all of this to happen. I think that's just not how municipalities operate. One commenter didn't hold back when requesting her resignation and accused her of breaching the community's confidence on social media, saying that she is as crooked as they come and that her crimes are obvious and traceable and that she ought to be imprisoned. It's plain that her attempt to take over the meeting was partly motivated by the residents' growing impatience and their desire for answers because this is a mayor who should be serving them and not squandering their hard-earned money on pleasures. I am not a voter. It appears that you are aware of some of these things when we go through our board packets, but you are unsure of their precise purpose. Then, when you ask a question, you get no answer, but wait, it gets even more dramatic. You would think that after all of this, Henyard would be remaining silent, perhaps in an attempt to preserve what little reputation she still had, but instead she arrived late for a village board meeting at the local park district building because the village hall couldn't accommodate the crowd. She tried to run the meeting, walking in as if nothing was wrong and trying to make a speech, but the residents didn't have it and jeered her. It's not about making headlines, it's about making sure the right thing is done. She left the meeting after receiving invoices, but those invoices raise more questions, and sometimes we don't get answers to those questions. Convening meetings and breaking the laws pertaining to openness, Farah says the whole thing is a complex attempt to undermine her authority and sabotage our re-election campaign. Barr has been trying to control the narrative by saying that all of these accusations are politically motivated. She even posted an enigmatic message on Facebook that read, "I need all my black sheep to stand with me. If God is for us, then who can be against us?" It seems like she's trying to rally her supporters, but it's hard to tell how many people are still behind her for the Tiffany Henyard, a politician from the South suburban area, has been the subject of a federal inquiry that has exposed her dubious spending for the past year, but we only know half the tale. However, federal officials have taken notice of the full scenario. Thomas has been served, and there are rumors that her inner circle is starting to fall apart due to the pressure. Some of her closest friends and family members have been dragged into the investigation, including her boyfriend, who allegedly involved the person who testified against her. It's the kind of story that keeps getting worse with no end in sight, and there are rumors. Detention and further disclosure of possible corruption in Henyard, despite the administration's adherence to certain financial limits, we don't always strive to, according to a report by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. The village's finances are in ruins primarily because of reckless spending and a lack of oversight. It seems as though the entire government structure is disintegrating under her watch. And with all these accusations piled up, residents are understandably worried about what this means for the town's economic stability. This is one of the most startling revelations from the described. One trustee claims that we've had enough of these antics and that it's time for true leadership. An observer even said, "Why hasn't she fled with the money and abandoned everyone?" And then even her most loyal supporters are struggling to defend her boyfriend's testimony that his decision to turn on her in court was a game changer, claiming that the trustees and other local political figures are threatened by their leadership style and are making every effort to remove her. This sentiment is becoming more widespread even when caught harshly as the scandal continues. What comes next? The legal battles are far from complete, and more testimony is anticipated soon. Tiffany Henyard feels attacked, so what will happen to her next? Weeks, and there are rumors that more damaging evidence may surface. So if Henyard is found guilty of the corruption charges, her political career may be over. Even as she escapes jail time, the harm to her reputation may be too great to recover from Dolton's house. Our Fed, everyone is watching to see how it all plays out. Will Tiffany Henyard be able to clear her name? Or is this the last chapter in her tenure as mayor of Dolton? The trustees are pushing for her to step down, and the federal investigation is hanging over everything. More importantly, what does this mean for Dolton's future? The village is already struggling financially, and with its leadership in chaos, things could get worse. Whatever happens, one thing is certain. This is a political scandal that will not be forgotten anytime soon. What do you think? Should Tiffany Henyard resign? Do you think there is more to the story? Could this be a case